if it will be, it might only capture my screen. So
usually it captures only the screen of whoever's speaking.
okay, thank you. So that's good.
That's so nice of you to record it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I am recording, and welcome. Thank you for coming. My name's Gabby. I am a registered dietitian and just someone who loves food and cooking. It makes me feel nourished and creative and just better in control of my diet. And it gives me access to yummy food a lot because I tend to cook a lot. So I decided to do this because I love teaching cooking and I love making nutrition fun and delicious. And I do work as a culinary nutrition educator at Boston Medical Center. So I teach cooking to groups of patients over there. And I also just love to come together with people in the community, which, you know, Zoom is one way of doing that. But I found that having classes on Zoom and being with people on Zoom still feels like getting together in some way. And so I really enjoy that. And then I also just wanted to offer a service into the community and into the world because of how much is going on right now and always really. But this is my small way of offering something and something that people seem to be interested in and needing. And I'm happy to contribute in some way. So we'll get started. And I have my close-up screen and my kind of wide angle. So you can watch whatever you like or both as I pin them here. And we're gonna do today egg muffins and savory oats. So I really wanted to focus on savory breakfasts because breakfasts tend to be carb heavy and generally on the sweet side, especially here in this country. And it's not that carb heavy is a problem, but often breakfasts tend to be missing other food groups like protein, like healthy fats, like vegetables. More often they'll have fruit. But protein and fiber, which is in vegetables and whole grains and nuts and seeds, help breakfast have more staying power, meaning they help us feel full for longer, in addition to giving us the benefit of extra nutrients. So these are some pretty simple ways to make breakfast savory and to meal prep ahead of time. So I want to start off with the egg muffins. And so I'm going to make 12 here. And these are stored really well in the fridge. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil. I'm using extra virgin olive oil because I'm only heating my oven up to 350 degrees, and extra virgin olive oil can tolerate that amount of heat. So I am gonna preheat my oven to 350, and if you're cooking along as you watch this, you will wanna do that too. And I just poured a little olive oil into one of the muffin wells here, and I'm using a brush to coat all of the muffin molds. You could use you could use the papers, the liners if you want, but you certainly don't have to. And here you could use cooking spray as an alternative to just regular oil. Olive oil is a healthy oil in that it's not a saturated fat. It's a monounsaturated fat. And it happens because it's pressed from olives, it is high in polyphenols and antioxidants, which have lots of protective mechanisms in our body. So I like to use extra virgin olive oil when I can, but if I'm cooking at a really high heat, like pan searing or my oven's above 350, I'll use avocado oil or a canola oil. Again, I like avocado oil because it's that anti-inflammatory kind of fat, but canola oil or another vegetable oil will work just fine. So got the muffin tins nice and greased. Now I'm just gonna crack a dozen eggs. Basically, it's 1 egg per muffin. So the idea is, you know, you might eat 2 or 3 of these for breakfast. That all depends on you, your appetite, what else you're eating with it. But 1 egg is 7 grams of protein. And so 2 eggs is 14 grams, 3 is 21. So that's why 3 eggs, 3 eggs is actually a nice amount of protein for a breakfast. So this could also definitely be a snack. And you can eat it as is, or you can get an English muffin, for example, and put it in the middle, you know, make an egg sandwich out of it. So eggs are an excellent source of protein, and in the past, the nutrition guidelines really were much more concerned with cholesterol than we are now. It's not that cholesterol, endogenous cholesterol, or the cholesterol in our bodies is still important to pay attention to. But what we've learned is that the amount of cholesterol that we get from our food is so small in comparison to the amount of cholesterol that our bodies just naturally make. And so we don't really have strict guidelines anymore on how much cholesterol you should get in a day, or you shouldn't exceed in a day. And I'm talking about this because eggs used to be one of those foods that people were really concerned about. But if you eat a couple eggs, you know, 5 days a week, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you're someone who's, you know, medical professional has told you to watch out for certain foods, then of course you want to listen to your medical professional. But in general, for healthy eating, we don't need to be counting grams of cholesterol. Just a little speck of something here in my egg. Okay. So we have our eggs, and now we want to season them. I'm just going to rinse off my hands. And so this is where it's really up to you, whatever will make this a more fun dish and enjoyable. You can put fresh herbs in here, basil, chives, scallion, cilantro, parsley, delicious. I don't have fresh herbs growing right now. For simplicity's sake, I'm just going to use my dry seasoning. I'm using this Kickin' Cajun seasoning because I like that it's got a little heat to it, a little spiciness to it. And I find that the more flavor I get in my food, and you know, the more satisfying it is. And so I like this big flavor in this Kickin' Cajun seasoning. And then I'm going to add a little bit of extra garlic powder here. And I tend to not measure, but you could do a teaspoon or 2 of dried herbs. Some seasoning blends already have salt in them. So you want to pay attention to that. Like this Kickin' Cajun, on the nutrition facts, you can see that it has, let's see, it has salt. So I'm going to keep that in mind. If you're using herbs or fresh herbs with no salt, then you can modify how much salt you add here to the eggs. But I'm also going to put some feta cheese in mine, and cheese is quite salty too. So Not going to add any extra salt, but that is up to you. All right, so that is ready and seasoned. Now, whatever vegetable you want, you can go ahead and use. I'm using broccoli, and this was frozen broccoli. So this recipe doesn't require any knife work, any cutting board, because the broccoli is already chopped and cooked. I'm just tearing it apart with my fingers to make smaller bite-sized pieces. And I've let it sit out. It's already kind of a little bit thawed. You could use frozen greens, like frozen spinach, for example. You could use bell peppers, onions, all of those you don't need to cook before, or you could cook them before. But buying frozen has the advantage of it's already been cooked, and so it's already pre-softened. The other thing you could do is if you wanted to add a starchy vegetable, since this is a high protein dish, you want some carbohydrate in there. Again, the more food groups we can get in our meal, the better, the more satisfying and nourishing it is. You can cook some sweet potato, you can cook some winter squash and add that winter squash into this as well. So now I'm just gonna use this broccoli to kind of halfway fill the muffin wells. And because this is, you know, this recipe just used our hands and our fingers, it's a really good one and fun one to involve kids, to involve kids with, because they can, these are skills and techniques that they can definitely participate in. So I filled these a bit, halfway or so. I guess I'll just use the rest of this. And then I'm gonna cover it up with the egg and put some cheese on top. So actually this would be much easier if I had my egg in something with a spout. I'm gonna pour it into this liquid measuring cup because it has a spout. You could definitely use a ladle here too, but this way it's gonna pour super easily. Gonna fill it. I should leave a little room for the cheese I'm gonna add. Cheese totally optional, but it increases the fat content a little, which again gives it more staying power. Fat helps us to stay fuller for longer because fat takes a lot longer to digest than carbohydrates do. So because I poured these, you know, a little bit high with egg, I'm only getting 10 here, so that's fine. No problem. Crumble some cheese on top. And my oven is not quite done preheating, so I'll let these sit for a minute until it does. And then they take just about 12 minutes to bake. So I'll put them aside and we can get started on the savory oats, and we're going to be making some kale pesto for that. All right, and because I used some raw egg here, I am just going to spray this down, remove any potential bacteria, because we're going to be doing some pesto, which we're going to eat raw. So we want to have a really clean work surface. and clean hands, so I will be right back. Okay. So pesto is another recipe like the egg muffins that is so flexible. We think of it as being basil pesto always, but it is really easy to use other greens and or other herbs, kind of whatever you got lying around. And so I'm doing a kale pesto today. You can always mix and match. So you can do like kale with basil, for example. This is pre-washed and stripped off the stem. I actually couldn't find, the store was completely out of the whole bunches of kale. So I'm going to start with putting some kale into the blender, a little bit of water, and a bit of oil. Again, I'm not really measuring because it's all about texture, and measuring tends to take a little longer. So I'll show you what I mean by all about texture. Let me just get this. Okay, here we go. So I want this to turn into a bright green water basically right now. So I can see that that wasn't, there's not enough liquid in here. So that's when I add a bit more. Okay, sorry for the terrible noise, but that is the bright green liquid I'm talking about. Smells very green. You know what I mean? The smell of green. And if yours might be a little thinner, no problem, because we have plenty of opportunity to get the texture how we want it with adding the nuts or seeds. So next I'm going to add a good pinch of salt. Couple pinches of salt. We'll taste it at the end to make sure it's right for us. I'm making this pesto without cheese. Typically, we use Parmesan cheese in a pesto. That's optional. You can make a delicious pesto without cheese. I would say garlic is key though. Raw garlic in the pesto is going to give you a spicy pesto. So you got to like that kind of bite that you get from raw garlic. Otherwise, I recommend using a pre-minced garlic that you can buy in a jar. That tends to be less spicy. It's mellowed a little bit because they put some, I think, vinegar in there and it's been chopped for a while. Just peeling a big clove of garlic. Throw it in there. I got a little clove here, why not? This will give you garlic breath, so consider yourself warned. And I'm gonna blend this up again real quick, just to chop that garlic since I didn't mince it in advance. Okay, now for the nuts or seeds. These have several functions in a pesto. I'm using pepitas or pumpkin seeds. very nutritious. I think they're high in zinc, but off the top of my head, yes, I'm a dietitian, but I have trouble remembering exactly what vitamins and minerals are in what. You don't need to know that. Just getting a variety of plant foods, you're going to get what you need. So these are also quite inexpensive compared to, say, walnuts, or definitely pine nuts, which go in a traditional pesto, are really pricey. So I love using pepitas. These are going to thicken up our pesto. They also make it hearty because they add healthy fats. They add fiber. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about fiber in a second, but this is probably about a third to a half a cup. I'm going to put it all in because if it gets too thick, I can thin it out with oil or water. And if it's not thick enough, I'll just add some more. Okay. So this looks to me like it could be, I could make it thicker. Definitely. I'm going to add some more pepitas, but I want to taste it for seasoning. So definitely a good amount of, enough salt, good on the salt, really nice and spicy. Like this will wake up your taste buds. And by the way, we're making this to put into a savory oat bowl. So, oh, my oven is preheated. I'm going to get my egg muffins in there. Put on a timer for 12 minutes and I'll check them. And I'm going to add some more pepitas, but definitely some other nuts that would go really nicely in here are almonds, walnuts, pine nuts. Those would be my favorites, or also pistachios. You could also use sunflower seeds, again, less expensive. Seeds tend to be less expensive than nuts. And I want to add a little bit of lemon juice. So, lemons tend to really, really brighten up a lot of things, soups, sauces. So I like that bright flavor. Not to mention they add good amount of vitamin C, and that vitamin C also helps our bodies to absorb any iron from our plant sources. So kale and pepitas do contain iron, and if we combine it with citrus, that vitamin C makes that iron more easily absorbed by the body. All right, so last time here. And one more taste. So close up, this looks like a really thick, bright green paste. Put the juice of about half a lemon in here. And it's great. Definitely mellowed out with the extra pepitas. Gonna finish this half lemon. Okay, and we're good to go on our pesto. Now, that did take a second, but you have now a pesto that you can use on pasta, in a grain bowl, in eggs, on a sandwich. So I'm just gonna get this into a jar to store in the fridge. This beautiful, nutritious green pesto. Okay. Even just dipping a good crusty loaf into this would be fantastic. So let's move on to the oats. And you can, so we're building an oat bowl, a savory oat bowl. And there's a couple of ways you can do this here. You can make overnight oats, so you don't have to cook them in the morning, or you can quickly put them in the microwave in the morning. So I'm gonna do 1/3 of a cup of oats and 1/3 of a cup of water. Or actually, I'm gonna do 1/2 cup of each. The recipe I sent out is 1/3 a cup of water, 1/3 a cup of oats. The important part is that you have equal parts water to oats. We don't want a savory oat bowl to be too liquidy. Of course, that's up to your preference, but I'm imagining a thicker, almost as if we're making like a grits or a polenta, a thick savory grain. All right, so there's that and a pinch of salt. And now this is where you'd put it in the fridge overnight and it would soften and be ready to eat the next day. You could do this in larger amounts or just one portion for the next day, or you can microwave it just before eating it. So I'm gonna microwave this for 2 minutes. And in the meantime, we'll share a little bit about why I wanted to focus on fiber today. So getting vegetables into a breakfast, having a savory breakfast is one way of getting fiber into our breakfast. So fiber is a nutrient that is found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. It is part of the cell structure of plants. So when we eat plants, we also eat the fiber. And it has, if I had to have a favorite nutrient, that is the one that it would be. So fiber and water help keep us regular. They prevent and they treat constipation. But fiber also slows down the absorption of carbohydrates or sugar into our bloodstream. So when we combine it with a carbohydrate, for example, oats is a source of carbohydrates with fiber, we don't absorb the carbohydrates as quickly, and we don't have as high of a spike of blood sugar or as low of a crash. So it helps to keep us more steady. And if you're someone who has diabetes, that is an important part of keeping steady blood sugar. It also helps lower cholesterol by absorbing cholesterol in our GI tract, and then we eliminate it when our food goes out the other side. The other thing is that the bugs in our gut, the good bacteria in our gut, they eat the fiber. We cannot absorb the fiber as humans, but the bugs in our gut eat the fiber and turn it into another product that human bodies can absorb called short chain fatty acids. And that is so healthy for us in many ways, including being very anti-inflammatory and helping to heal the gut lining if your gut walls need any healing. So yay for fiber, it's my favorite nutrient, and the vegetables, the nuts or seeds, and the whole grain oats in this meal all contain fiber. All right, so I've got my oats here, and now I'm gonna quickly turn my close-up camera. I want to fry an egg for my savory oat bowl because I don't want to be eating only the carbohydrates and the vegetables. I want some extra protein here. So you could do 1 or 2 eggs, you could scramble them, however you like to eat it. Hello and welcome to whoever just joined us. We're just finishing up our oat bowl. So I'm making a fried egg here. And we made some pesto and we microwaved some oats with water and salt. And you can see that this gave us a nice thick, savory oat. So the egg is my main source of protein in this breakfast. Protein is going to be in meat, poultry, eggs, milk, cheese, nuts, beans. So in this meal, we're getting some protein from our pesto, which has the pumpkin seeds. We're getting some protein from the egg. We have vegetables from the kale, and we have carbohydrate from the oats. So the more food groups you can get into your meal, the more staying power it will have, the more balanced it is, the better. And we can't always do this. We're not going to always do this. And it's not about having it perfect at every single meal, but trying for it when we can. So I'm just mixing a big scoop of pesto into that oat bowl. And then I'm going to add my fried egg right on top. And that is that. Like your eggs runny, you'll like this version because it's nice and runny, and then I can stir that yolk right into my savory oat bowl, and it's really delicious. Let's see. Yeah, it's really delicious and really savory because of that pesto. So the egg muffins still have a couple more minutes. So I'll just say a few things. Thank you so much for coming. I would love to grow this community and this class, and I will be hosting a class next week at 10 a.m. With a $5 suggested donation because I'm going to donate the proceeds to a relief fund for Ukraine. I'll publish more about that, and we'll be sending out an email about that. Any questions or comments from anyone here?
This was totally wonderful, and thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I can't wait to try these things out.
Great. Thank you for your feedback.
I love that you don't measure.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm baking and I have to measure, I measure, but you know.
I'm good with that.
Good. So I will let you go, unless you want to. Oh, I'm going to take those egg muffins out. They just finished, I think. Let's see. Nope. They need another 5 minutes or so. So until they're not runny on top, that's when we know they're done. So thank you for coming, and I hope to see you again. Nova and Marissa, thank you so much. I'm glad you were here with me.
Thank you so
This
much.
This was a great start, and I hope that there'll be more of us joining you next time.
Yes.
Me too.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.